think it will. Oh, I gotta put you up in the screen there again. Whoa. Okay, I apologize. It alternates apparently when we talk. I did not know that.
Yeah, sometimes Skype does that.
Yeah. Should be livable here. I want to see if I can change it to not alternate. Partial. No. Whatever. If it messes up, it messes up. It's not that big a deal, as long as it can hear us. But
yeah, the only time I've ever used Skype is when I was on Nina Turner's podcast and when I was on Jimmy Dore's podcast. I don't use it, so unfortunately, I'm not much help.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, I'm just gonna start it then. Give me just 1 sec. Alrighty, and we have begun our episode here of Left Lovers. Our special first guest ever, Savage Joy Marie. Great organizer, great activist, and honestly, just good person so far from what I can tell, trying to do a lot of good things for genuinely every person in this country and on the planet. But, you know, I'm so nervous because I've never really done like an interview with somebody as important as you. So I don't want to do you an injustice by, being too bland or vague about what you've done, and of course, I know you have things coming up here in the future as well. You're starting your show tonight.
Yeah.
And that'll be really cool to check out. That way I don't have to go 100 different places to see where you're posting.
Yes. Yeah, I actually, my new channel, well, I shouldn't say new, but because I have over 400 of my prior shows uploaded, but starting tonight, I am officially going on my own after being with an organization for 4 years. So people can check it out at Savage Joy Marie Mann. And, I'm still going to be doing the same kind of shows and stuff like that. I'm just going to be able to do them myself and not have to worry about anyone else. Because that's more savage.
Yes, that is true. And part of the reason why I think it's important, like for people like you and in a different way, people like me to have like our own platform is because quite frankly, like I've been kicked off of Facebook twice. Like literally they deleted 2 of my accounts. It's happened on Twitter twice. And it's important that you can at least put it in other places, right? And having a YouTube account, you can speak your mind into the void. You can speak into the void on Facebook, but it's different, right? You don't have to worry about what other people are going to say to you. You don't have to worry about what snarky response you have to come up with. You just speak your mind. And that's going to be very big for you. And it's big for me right now because, like I said, I can't even talk.
Well, it's super therapeutic. When I first started my show, I actually, the way that I started was because it was 2016 and the Bernard's first campaign was coming to an end, and they were closing my Harrisburg, Pennsylvania campaign office. It was the first time I had ever done anything with politics or a campaign, and I made like a 2-minute video to my comrades who helped out at the Bernie campaign office. And because I didn't want to type something, I felt it was very informal. So I made like a 2-minute video. I got very emotional about how becoming politically involved had changed me as a person and really made me evolve. And it went viral. And I don't know why, still to this day. But that was when Steve from Real Progressives reached out to me, and he's like, you have to do a show. And I was like, hell no, I am not going on camera. No, I had like 50 Facebook friends. Like, I was so, a very outgoing in person, but online very timid. And he kind of kept bugging me for months, and I finally said, fuck it, I'll try one episode. And it got like over 5,000 views, and I was like, holy shit, maybe I can kind of do this in some weird way. So that was over 4 years ago. So, and by the way, when I first started, my knees would shake like you wouldn't believe, and I took Ativan, and my voice would quiver and stuff. It's something you get more comfortable with, honestly, because I used to take shit to heart and be like, that person was mean to me, I can't believe. Now I'll just call them out on live on the air. I'll be like, yo, whoever so and so is, fuck you, go do your own show. Like, because I just don't care anymore. Like, if you don't like it, don't watch. Like, period. Yeah. Go troll someone else.
Yeah, honestly, like, there's no reason why people that are trying to do good things should have like hecklers. And I've seen people come at you on Twitter. I've seen people come at other people that were organizing the M for M for All. And, it's ridiculous because the people that are on there bitching about everything are doing none of the work, right? And pretty much you haven't done anything like to hurt these random ass people on Twitter, and yet they're like trying to shame the entire organization or trying to shame everybody involved to break it down. And it's like, it's almost as if it seemed like concocted in a way by like the establishment or something, like anything that they can do to like shoot down, actual grassroots movements and really uniting forces such as the Medicare for All March, And,
yeah, I mean, whether they were with the establishment or what have you, they are with the establishment. They are helping them, whether it's inadvertent or not. I mean, these shit libs are, giving each other cheers with their mimosas every time you make up lies and start talking shit about our event that's literally thousands of people came out to in 56 locations nationwide. And you're talking shit behind a keyboard, you're being a slacktivist, and you say you support Medicare for All. Well, you didn't want us to force the vote. You didn't want us to march. You don't want us to do the petition for the human rights violation we're filing with the United Nations. What the hell do you propose? Because every time I ask that, it's crickets.
Yeah.
Every freaking time. So
Same.
You're just hating on us, but you have no suggestions of what is better.
That is true. And like one thing I've definitely noticed too, like, you're friends with Jimmy Dore. I love Jimmy Dore, on occasion, of course, because everyone's got to take a little break every now and again. Eventually, he'll break your skull. but,
Yes.
I got mad love for him. But, you gotta. Actually, I kind of lost my train of thought there. Oh, okay. What it was coming down to was how similar to you and the organization of M for M for All and the actual activism and everything that we do, it's almost never about like policy that they have problems with. It's personality. Like, so when we express a point of view just by saying the word fuck, people like tune us out for some reason. Or like when Jimmy Dore shits on Bernie sometimes, like people want to tune him out. I was like that for a while, and now I'm at a point where like I've realized that it's really, there's no substance. It's all about people's feelings. They don't like the fact that Jimmy goes on like Tucker Carlson, but he talks about Medicare for all and stuff, but they're like, oh, but he's on a fascist TV show. None of that stuff, like, he's literally talking to conservatives about Medicare for all and a Green New Deal and a federal jobs guarantee and like important stuff. These people don't attack with like policy propositions of their own. Like, no, we should do this. This is better. They're always at the very best, incrementalist, or just at the best, second best, they just shut up and go away. But that never happens.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, you learn so much, and people say, well, online isn't real life. Well, yeah, there's some bots and shit, but I'll be damned if it isn't real life. You're talking at real people. You're talking about real lives. When you're trying to stop Medicare for all marches by literally doxing a disabled woman and saying you're going to call Social Security and say she's faking being blind, yeah, I take that personally. And these are the things that have happened to me and so many others. They absolutely would rather people not have the ability to just basically what it comes down to is the main reason they didn't want it. They will not admit this, but the main reason is we had 56 locations nationwide and not a single representative came out and spoke at a single one of our locations. That hurts their deities. Oh my God, look at all these, 56 locations, and where's the squad? Not there. And they know it makes their deities look like absolute shit. And that's what it comes down to. That's why they didn't want us to do it. Not because, of any other reason, but selfishly, they don't want us proving that their beloved squad really doesn't give a shit, because AOC hasn't even tweeted the words Medicare for all in over 6 months. She wore an abolish ICE baseball hat today, even though she's saying nothing to her man who literally still has kids in cages, hasn't done shit for DACA, literally expanded ICE, expanded the police, has deported more people than Trump, and he's only been in office a few damn months. But abolish ICE. I'm wearing a baseball hat. I am such a revolutionary. Fuck that. Fuck your deities. Fuck your heroes. These people are not your friends. They're not.
I know. You brought me right to where I wanted to talk about. At the Medicare for All March, we actually had 2 candidates for Senate, in Milwaukee, show up. And one of them kind of came for what was clearly a photo op. Like he showed up, he marched for a couple blocks, and then when we stopped the first time, he shook a couple hands. I shook his hand. I'm like, oh, like, is this your primary opponent right here? And he's like, yes. I'm like, interesting. Like, I just wanted to make him think about it, and then he left. But the other person I talked with, I can't remember her name right now, Ballatino or something. Anyway, she was in the crowd when I gave the speech, and I said, these politicians, they cannot be our friends. They cannot be our comrades or our allies. We have to hold their feet to the fire, because without it, like, nothing gets done. So if you get in, like, we're going to come back because we marched to the current occupants' offices. So we marched there, and I'm like, we're going to be back. Like, if we don't get what we need and you're in there and you're not fighting for it, expect this, but with more people. We need to do this, whether it's once a week, once a month, twice a year. I don't care. We need to do it over and over and over. So yes, I fully agree. These politicians, they are not our friends. They're not our comrades, not our allies. They are our oppressors.
And there was a meme that I just absolutely love that said, believing a politician is your friend is like believing the stripper really likes you. And I was like, holy shit, that is the best analogy I've ever heard. And yeah, I mean, I booked more than 50 of the speakers, bands, etc. for the locations nationwide. And I emceed the DC march, and I purposely, like, I I had 16 speakers, a DJ, a musician, a vigil. I made sure not a single one was a candidate. And I don't think we should have had any candidates at any of the 56 locations, to be quite honest, because this is about candidates too. What the hell are they doing for us? Not
Yeah.
a damn thing. They're all about photo ops. We see that shit with Corey Bush on the steps saying, play the music. Like, yay, we like did something huge. No, like, fuck candidates. Run locally, make changes. Hell yes. But I don't give anyone props just because you're running. You need to show me who you are once you're elected. Because we've seen, if you haven't learned by now, electing people does not mean that they're going to be the same person. I interviewed AOC the first time around. She was an activist. She was someone who believed in Medicare for all, Green New Deal, etc., etc. I interviewed Congressman Ro Khanna 4 times. He was Medicare for all pushing. He was more progressive. These people changed. We have to acknowledge that. It's a fact. And just being in denial about that comes down to one thing. It is privilege. You are telling people who are disabled, who are people of color, who are poor, who are hurting, that they don't have a right to demand for people to stick to their word. And that is privilege.
That is, and it's cowardly, really.
It is.
I tweeted something earlier. I said, why would I spend any moment of time bitching about the Republicans when they aren't the ones that pretend to be my friends? Like,
exactly.
People
get mad about that a lot. They'll say, well, you post things every day and you never post about Trump. Well, Trump isn't in office. Y'all said you were going to be quiet, but you couldn't wait till Trump was out of office, so you never had to talk about him again, and you trend his ass every damn day.
Yeah.
He's not in office. I don't give a fuck about him. For what? You guys have the Senate, the Congress,
House.
the White House. You have all that shit. And what the hell are you doing for us? Not a damn thing. So you want to vote blue no matter who and all that bullshit. And what has it gotten us? Nothing. We're watching eugenics of the poor right in front of our freaking face.
I know. And it genuinely pisses me off because, like, I haven't told you about, like, my further background. I was a victim of the war on drugs. I spent 2 years in prison for marijuana that I literally proved in court through fingerprint evidence that I never touched. It's a complicated situation, personal and all that, with somebody else. But point is, like, even when I had things like clear evidence, the system didn't work for me. So imagine, and I'm clearly a pale-skinned man, like, imagine how much worse I wouldn't even gotten the fingerprint evidence back if I were, probably, black or brown or whatever. Like, it's ridiculous. But I spent 27 total months, technically off of 2 separate incidents, one of which was stemming from the other. And I did an appeal. I wrote my own appeal to the Supreme Court of Wisconsin from prison, like by hand. There's the system is so rigged, and it's even more rigged now than it was even like 30 years ago or like 20 years ago when they got rid of habeas. They sliced it. And there's so many people in there right now. And my governor in particular, he announced this thing the other day about like how he's expediting the pardon process, the pardon board. And well, essentially what he did was give himself a big slap on the back because you still have to wait 5 years before you can even request a pardon, right? I've been out, like, you have to have completed your sentence, so your probation as well, or your parole, depending on your state. In my state, it's probation no matter what. But I had to complete that and then wait 5 years. So I still have to wait like another 3 years or like 4 years or something before I can even apply. And he's given himself this big pat on the back with our Senator Lena Taylor, who ran for mayor. I volunteered for her for mayor because I'm just tired of the old white guy in office all the time. But just it's such a big web of complicated bureaucracy that is an injustice on every single person and family that has been impacted by the war on drugs or the mass incarceration, the military, or not military, prison industrial complex, which I've written about sort of extensively. Like when I was incarcerated, I had access to a warehouse. I had a job. They, for some reason, told me all of the money, like all of the funding that goes into the prison system to that prison, how much they spend on electricity per month, toilet paper per week, how much they spend on clothes, food, all of that. It's a huge monopoly and a huge racket, and it's literally terrorized people like myself. So for that, I have to say, fuck Richard Nixon, fuck Ronald Reagan, and fuck Joe Biden for pushing him to the right on the war on drugs and literally getting his bills vetoed because he was working with a segregationist. Imagine being too fucking right wing for Ronald Reagan. Like,
yeah. God, I'm so sorry. That's freaking awful. I interviewed a gentleman named Temujin Kensu on my show from prison. And it was hell to get everything through the prison system to be able to do the interview with me, and we were able to do it for over 3 hours. And his story is so insane. Like, he was proven innocent. Well, let me say this. He's been in prison 34 years and proven innocent numerous times. Over a decade ago, he was proven innocent in a court of law to the point that he received documentation stating he was going to get out of prison. It sat on Gretchen Whitmer's desk in Michigan for years, and she just finally refused it. So he's still stuck in there. While he's in there, he has gotten COVID. He has a brain tumor. He has lung issues. He has been so sick and everything, and they don't do shit for him. And this is a man who was proven innocent 34 years. It's absolutely disgusting. And it is so obvious he didn't do what they say he did. And there's more evidence than I could even go into for, like, even it would take me hours to go over all the evidence showing he didn't do what he's incarcerated for, which is shooting a politician's son, of course. So if they let him go, the politician would be like, no one's responsible. You know what I mean? He was literally in another state when
all politics.
Oh yeah. He was literally in another state when it happened, and they're like, oh, he probably rented a private jet and flew it back to do it. Like, dude was on welfare, had no job, like, etc. And you're like, oh yeah, he rented a private. Like, it is just so, the system will do what it wants to do, and it does not matter if it makes sense.
And it's never been a system of justice either, because think about it, like, every case has a precedent. So, like, what was there before Roe v. Wade? Like, I know that may have been a case there that decided the future of the law, but, like, every case law has had to overturn something else pretty much, or become the precedent itself. So, like, our system has, just something I read the other day about Eugene Debs, literally was thrown in prison for criticizing a war and capitalism. He blamed capitalism, didn't name the president, didn't name anybody, gave him 10 years. And then, of course, some Harding, who apparently was a real conservative, very, very conservative, pardoned the socialist. But the fact that, like, the courts upheld that. Like the Supreme Court of the United States upheld his conviction of 10 years for a speech. The system has never been just, especially for people of color or poor people in general. And it's just this. I think it's all on purpose, divide and conquer. And another way of doing it is just by labeling someone a criminal or whatever, you know. Or
Absolutely. And I cannot even fathom the way our country would change if we legalized all drugs and we decriminalized sex work. I
yeah,
mean, these two things alone would change people's lives for the better. Now, that doesn't mean, some people are like, well, they should still get treatment instead of jail. Okay, that's fine. I'm just saying decrim, because that's one of the things about the federal job guarantee. It would take incarcerated people. You don't have to check a box. You want a job, you get a job, period.
that is a good
And that
thing.
would change lives.
That reminds me of something I wrote towards the end of my incarceration called Identity Blind Economics, where it was just talking about, like, at least for certain job fields, you don't even have to fill in your name or, like a criminal background unless you're like pedophile or something. I think that's kind of something important. But like, you should be based on your qualifications and the need for labor. That's it. Like in qualifications, even then, that's setting up a burden or a barrier for some people, which I addressed in there as well. And it was before Bernie had even come out with his new campaign for 2020. I was still in 2019, 2018. And the concept of a federal jobs guarantee just wasn't in my head yet. I was literally watching like Lester Holt every night. Like, I wanted to die. Like, I was like, I can't do this. But so I just wrote down as many ideas as I could for myself. And I talked about, obviously just making college free and just a identity blind form of job hiring process. So that way people aren't chosen based on their name, which might be ethnic or tribal or whatever the case, or, their looks on their face or their picture. Like, all of these things open the door for the most direct and discreet discrimination.
Well, and a lot of people say, homeless people, why not just get a job? Okay, so you've lived on the street for 6 years. You have to fill out an employment application of your past 5 years job history. You think they're even going to look at you when there's nothing written there? Federal job guarantee.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
people don't think about this shit. Me being blind and disabled, I could get a job like that. And they would have to, I went to college. I'm 42 years old. I've worked for over 20 years. I've worked in offices. I've worked in healthcare. I could get a job so easily because they would be required to give me the blind accessibility equipment I need, and they'd be held responsible for it. Things like that. But people who already have a job and are already comfortable, they're just like, well, whatever. If you want a job, just get a job. And
Yeah.
then they still shit on people who work at McDonald's and stuff too, because that's not a good enough job. Well, don't be bitching in line when you have to wait 5 minutes to get your
Yeah.
food then.
I'm not gonna lie, I can be somewhat of a Karen, especially lately. Like, I just had stupid scenarios, but every single time I've gotten pissed at, like a fast food worker, I'm like, and I say it out loud. You can ask my girlfriend too if you want, but I'm like, I hope you get a raise. Like, I get pissed off and I'm like, you deserve better. Like, but I'm pissed off. Like, I blow up, but I'm like, God, if they just paid them, maybe they would actually like what they're doing, right? Or
Well, that's the
maybe,
thing. I mean, why would you care what you're doing if you're that McDonald's literally has their workers 39.5 hours a week, because if they give that extra 30 minutes, they get health care and
Healthcare.
benefits.
Yep.
Disgusting. Yep. Absolutely disgusting. And the majority of people, I've seen studies that show that over 60% of McDonald's workers are single mothers who work another job on top of it.
Yeah.
Which, so when people say, well, $15 shouldn't be for everyone, hey, it should be $23 if we went with what it should be. So, yes. Yeah, if it means paying $15 at McDonald's for this woman to not have to work a second job so she can actually spend time with her kids, then you're a privileged asshole if you don't want to afford, give her that opportunity.
It's really just anti-working class, period, because these people, they're like, oh, it's a starter job, so they can get some money in their pocket. Well, what's the money in their pocket for? School? The future? Well, how are you going to make money for the future when you're literally making the least amount of money possible due to you justifying the exploitation of these workers? Like, it's such a counterintuitive argument to make, especially on behalf of the conservatives, which I don't really encounter many like liberals or progressives for that matter, that are against the $15 minimum wage. It's pretty much universal, like center to the left, it seems. We're like, yeah, at the very least, like we need a strong minimum wage increase.
I don't know though, because how many candidates, out of the like 25 actually had that on their platform? And like everyone who supported Andrew Yang doesn't care about $15. Everyone who supported Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, like all these people, every single one of them does not feel it's necessary to be on a platform.
Isn't the public polling though for like the minimum wage pretty high? Like for an increase to 15?
That I don't know about. I know in some states.
Yeah, because I definitely didn't believe any of the candidates like were serious about that, other than Bernie. I obviously I don't know what Tulsi's stance was. I don't know what Yang's stance was either, to be honest. I think Elizabeth Warren might have been in favor of it, but like
she
I don't.
Was $12.
12. Okay, well imagine being Elizabeth Warren in 2020 and then putting yourself behind Hillary Clinton on the minimum wage, because she came out and supported that in 2016. You just brought Elizabeth Warren to a new level of pathetic to me.
Oh, well, it was the height of I am, Elizabeth Warren. I even just saying her name makes me want to barf. She is like my arch enemy. I loathe that woman so much, and I know her campaign in and out because I went to Iowa for 5 weeks to volunteer for Bernie. And man, did I educate people on Elizabeth Warren there. And she had her housing, big structural change for her housing was to lower rent 10% in 10 years.
It's always incrementalist. It's so incrementalist.
Rent goes up like 20-30%. Now, with the moratorium, it's going up hundreds every month, etc. So that would actually do literally nothing. And then here's Cori Bush taking selfies with Elizabeth Warren, while they're protesting. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? This is so disgusting, because Elizabeth Warren is an opportunist, just like so many others. Like when Bernard came out with the Medicare for All first time around with the actual bill in 2017, you have Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar sign on. Now, everybody knew we only had 15 co-sponsors at that point. So we all knew it wasn't going to pass. So it was, yay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign on. I'm going to look oh so progressive. And then what happened? People just like Elizabeth Warren, all these people, they ran in 2019 and they proved they don't give a fuck about Medicare for All. It was opportunism.
Exactly, especially remember that first Kamala Harris thing where they brought it up to her, like, would you support Medicare for all? She said yes, and then she said no. She like clarified the next day or like a few hours later. I misunderstood the question. The question was literally, do you support Medicare for all? Like, yeah. But yeah, all of that is like, it's kind of interlinked, because if you can create a federal job guarantee, you can put part of the you can create a union, a public union through federal jobs, right? You can attach $15 minimum wage. You can attach your health care. All of these things in one little bit, right? And if you're the president, you can declare a minimum wage, or an executive action, right, to declare federal workers minimum wage to go up. So it literally could resolve all the problems that our bureaucratic House and Senate are just delaying more and more. It could resolve all of that. Just federal job guarantees. So it's super important. I agree, and especially for people.
We just had the $15 legislation able to be voted on, and Kamala said she was for it, and literally the next day turned down the legislation, and it was up to her and only her.
Yeah, she's a Democrat, though. She passed off the blame to a scapegoat. This is what they've been doing with Sinema and Manchin. They'll scapegoat. So what was it, the parliamentarian that nobody had ever heard of until that point?
Right.
All of a sudden, the perfect
it's one person, and they don't make law. They just make suggestions.
Yes, and you could literally overrule them, and chose not to. And just wondering, how big were you with force the vote, with that whole build up?
I was on the town hall with Brother Cornel West and Jimmy, and I was the disabled speaker. So I was very involved. I also spoke at the DC protest. So that, that was when I really started learning just how ugly people could be online. But it was the first time I ever publicly shared my story about going blind last year. And so it was really, really overwhelming, very emotional. And it was the first time I ever referred to myself as the word disabled. So it was very intense. And it really started a lot of harassment, doxing, insults, things like that. But something that I really treasured was I had a couple hundred people reaching out to me, telling me their stories, sharing what they've gone through and things like that. And I was like, this is incredible. I never expected this.
Yeah.
But people aren't used to people being raw like that. They're used to manufactured bullshit, and someone going on and being emotional and sharing, what happens when you become disabled overnight. It really, it awakens people to it's more real to them. Yeah. So I'm very thankful I was asked to be, on that town hall with people that I am not in the same caliber with whatsoever. I was very honored that I was asked.
Hey, you do a lot of great stuff, so you belonged up there.
Thank you so much.
Not to harken back to it, Jimmy with the Medicare for all thing, that's where I started to notice people really fucking coming out of the woodwork, anti-Jimmy this. You would love this probably. There's a local Democrat in Milwaukee, and I got screenshots and everything, but I saw him on Twitter, and he was tweeting at Katie Halper, don't have Jimmy come on your show. She was asking, she's like, he goes, anybody but Jimmy. I'm like, hey man, it's Matt, the guy that gave you the Bernie sign for the campaign. And anyway, I was just wondering, because nobody can ever articulate a reason to me other than their feelings why they don't like Jimmy Dore. If you would love to come on my podcast for 1 minute, 2 minutes to talk about it, I'd love to either discuss it with you, debate it with you. He literally blocked me immediately. So then I went to his Facebook and I sent him a message. I'm like, why did you cowardly block me? Like all this stuff. He's like, oh, that's proof I didn't read the message. He literally just didn't like the fact that I was talking to him about like Jimmy Dore. And he said later on in the messages, look, I'm sorry if this reinforces your stereotype, but I don't have anything educational to add, and I just don't like that he talks bad about the squad. I'm like, that literally reinforced the whole fucking stereotype. That was literally my whole message to you, man. Like, so you reinforced it 200%. This is going everywhere. Like, I was like, he's a leader of the college Democrats, like all this stuff. He's not that important, but like, he's a liberal to the core, and that proved it right there. It's always these people about personality, and with Jimmy, I saw all these people start hating on him. Somehow Cornel West didn't fucking catch too much hate for being on there. Somehow.
Well, it's interesting because, well, not interesting, but disappointing and quite disgusting, because we had over 140,000 views on that town hall.
Yeah.
Yet what was trending the next day? Not Medicare for all, not force the vote, Jimmy Dore.
Yeah.
So that is the problem right there. They were looking for an excuse to negate every single thing of purpose. And every time people attacked me for force the vote, every single time, without fail, Jimmy's name was in that attack. Every single time. I'm like, I don't even follow the dude. What are you talking about? Like, I didn't even follow him until I went on his show last month. Because a lot of what he says pisses me the fuck off, to be honest with you.
I'm the same way, but at the same time, he's got to speak some truth, like his truth. So, like, while it's not for me, it is for some people to understand. Like, I already know how I feel about AOC and, Bernie and everybody. I know that they aren't perfect people. So I don't need to hear it like every week. But at the same time, other people don't know anything about how we've been let down. I've told myself a million times, I'm not going to hate on Bernie, because I literally wouldn't be who I am without like him running. But even he's let me down, and I'm not going to hate on him for it. But like, that Jimmy just speaks the truth.
I don't know if you can see it. It's a birdie that says revolution.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've given the past 6 years of my life to that man. I was at his fucking birthday party 2 years ago. Like, I've seen him 23 times. I've been all across the states seeing him and meeting with him and you name it. But I respect my roots. It comes down to that. It's that simple. He's pissing me off, but I would not be me had I never known who he was. I would not be an activist. I would not have joined be politically involved. I would not have my show. I would not be awake to the corruption of, our system and such. So regardless of how bad he pisses me off, I am who I am because he planted that seed. So exactly. I will always have love for him, even though I want to grab his shoulders and shake the fuck out of him. I still
wake up, Bernie. Look, Joe is in there. He's not making any fucking sense. Like, he just approved a bunch of pipelines.
Yeah.
Fuck, we just had a massive hurricane. We need you. Like, I remember this one time I was on Twitter and I saw this lady, this girl, she posted, my not so radical grandma just told me after watching the debate, Bernie should declare himself president and take over for Trump. I'm like, it's always these moments where I wish Bernie had the backbone. Like, it's not the backbone. I don't know what it is. I don't. because it's not like he's a coward. It's not that he's corrupt. I don't know what it is. Maybe
I don't either, because he's not running. So I don't understand why he is being so weak. I don't get it. I don't get it. He's, he's letting so many of us down, and I wish he would just bring back that fire of, when he was running against Hillary, he brought it.
Yes.
He brought it. But then it was my friend Joe. And, it was just, I don't understand why. But even now that the election's over, it's still, it's still like he's campaigning.
It is. I get text messages like every week, like, can you donate $27 like to progressive causes? I'm like, I want to, man. I want to. I don't know what the fuck progressive causes you're involved with right now, because it wasn't ours. Like, but at the same time,
it really hurt. But I did unsubscribe after 6 years. I was just like, I'm not giving any donations to anyone, mutual aid or so, yes, but not. I will never donate to another campaign in my entire life. I do not give a fuck who it is. Not gonna happen.
I hear you. I donated a couple. I was only making like right around minimum wage. I was still donating, here and there. I probably got up to like $200 or $300 for his campaign. For someone like me, that's a lot. But I don't know. Back to the original point though, but like Jimmy and like how he kind of will take swipes at the squad and all that. People, especially on Force the Vote, would just revert to hating on him, and like you said earlier, not have any policy or alternative themselves. And when they would literally be like, I'm sure you saw. What's his name, Sam Cedar, like where he was basically saying, this is what's going to happen. You're going to end up with a Republican speaker. I think that was him.
Yeah, which was proven completely false.
Yeah, impossible, but that was a line that was repeated by liberals all over the place on Facebook and Twitter. So what? We end up with this, or what? We end up with an even worse House, blah, blah, blah. What exactly is going to change besides the person that's in charge? And it wouldn't be a Republican, but what?
Pelosi's fucking Republican anyway. People need to wake up.
Yes, I agree entirely. That was another thing. I'm like, what does it matter? They're like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Bro, the bathwater's fucking boiling. Like,
yeah.
But man, this has been so exciting. I'm sorry, I'm like still overwhelmed.
Aww.
In regard to Bernie, I did a lot for his campaign too the last time around. I probably went to Iowa, I want to say like 4 or 5 times. I just got on the Bernie bus from Milwaukee. And, I went to university once where I saw AOC and Michael Moore speak. I went to a few different like small towns. One was like it was a weird rural ghetto combination, like for lack of a better term. Like half the houses were like, not decommissioned, but like a term similar where it's not suitable for living. And there's people answering the doors with the sticker that says like, this is not suitable for human, like.
Oh, what was that called? I think I was there. Something with an M.
Yeah, I can't remember offhand. It might have been the college town.
I was at 5 different campaign offices in Iowa. I just kind of moved around.
Yeah. But I saw these houses that were just straight up unlivable, and I'm like, you guys got me knocking on these people's doors, and they have absolutely no hopes for humanity. They don't know who Bernie Sanders is. They don't know who the fuck I am. And I'm supposed to go in there and knock on their door that's barely held on. And these houses all look like they were made in like the 1930s or some shit. Like straight up out of the Dust Bowl era. Like
a lot of people there had no idea what a caucus was. Like,
yes.
No idea.
Yes.
And I'm like, why am I, a Pennsylvanian, educating you on what a caucus is? But
Yeah.
it's really, I mean, caucuses have always been advantageous for our campaign, but at the same time, it really is used to disenfranchise people with confusion.
Yes. Yeah. And I didn't understand the caucus fully either until, I was watching it go down afterward. I just knew I had to get people, to go there for Bernie and, do my best. So I went and hit multiple lists on my own. Uh, but the caucus itself, it was so confusing, especially for like older people or like they don't while they say they vote more than younger people, like there were older people there that had no fucking clue how anything worked. And then the younger people were like, I don't know, man, I've never gone before. Or the middle-aged people like, yeah, I'm undecided. But those undecided people were actually more fun to talk to than like anybody else who was like solidly.
Absolutely.
I remember one time, this guy was a Trump supporter through and through, right? And I had similar situations throughout the last few years, but I just told him, like, watch the Joe Rogan episode with Bernie, then
Yes.
make your decision. Because I'm like, you watch Joe Rogan, don't you? He's like, yeah. I'm like, so you like him, right? You know he's gonna ask straight questions or whatever. I was trying to appeal to him. I'm like, just open up and watch that, and make your decision. That those moments there were like more gratifying than like seeing him win a state. Like,
I remember one of my favorite moments in those 5 weeks I volunteered was a 16-year-old girl came from Chicago with her mom to door knock, and the mom had on an Elizabeth Warren shirt. And I'm like, oh my God, why would you come to a Bernard's campaign office with a fucking EW shirt? So she's like, she comes inside and she's like slowly zipping up her jacket, like awkwardly. I'm like, oh my God. So I was like, so you brought your teenage daughter here to help knock on doors from Chicago? That's amazing. And she's like, yeah, I don't understand it, but she's really passionate about Bernie. And, I was like, well, encouraging your kids to be politically involved is incredible. Like, and I was just super nice to her because I appreciated it. Like, I thought
yeah,
it was awesome, especially because she didn't want him. She wanted someone else, and she still was supporting her kid. So they come back 3 hours later. I think I'm gonna cry. Okay, so they come back like 3 hours later, and the girl said, oh my God, this was so exciting. We talked to so many people. And the mom said, you know what? I really didn't like Bernie, but after talking to these people, after listening to the way my daughter explained, with so much passion, and listening to the way people got excited when his name was mentioned, I am now going to support him and vote for him. I just got goosebumps. And I just started like bawling, I was
those
like,
moments are totally unexpected, but so worth it.
it
And
was amazing.
in the kind of polar opposite like setting, like when I was incarcerated, I had a cellmate that was from northern Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's already pretty much just considered to be, like rural outside of Milwaukee, right? But this guy was from the smallest town, and I, I, I went to school up there with him. I didn't know him at the time, but when we were incarcerated, we had a TV in our room, and he kept getting pissed off, and uh, we'd watch like Jimmy Fallon or whatever, and every single fucking show they'd be making fun of Trump, and he'd get pissed off about it. I'd start laughing. I'm like, well, maybe he shouldn't be such a dumbass. He's giving these people material. But at the end, like 5 minutes into like just the silence after he turned the TV off, he's a Trump supporter through and through. He literally said, like, fuck Hillary, fuck Trump, Bernie should have been president. This guy, I'm not gonna lie to you, he's one of those people that you wouldn't really want to be friends with at all, because like you can tell like he's just not a good person. But like even he had that moment of clarity from the fucking opposite far right wing, white redneck indoctrinated, and he's like, Bernie should be president. I've had so many experiences like that with people from all over the spectrum, you know?
Absolutely. I was telling people, I said, Trump is the only Republican on the ticket for the caucus. What you could do, because a lot of Trump supporters said that Bernie was their second choice, which is so fucking weird. But I think it's because Trump never attacked Bernie. But, I say, so what you can do, since Trump is automatically the Republican nominee in your state, what you could do is go over and caucus for Bernie. That way, Bernie will win and Trump will win, and your two favorites will be the nominees in your state.
Yeah.
And some of them were like, yeah, that's a really good idea.
There are so many people that would have loved to have seen Bernie go at it with Trump.
Oh
Like
my God.
Bernie's too fucking smart.
That one time he challenged Trump and Trump agreed, and then he bitched out.
Yeah, I was so excited about that too, because it was making me, what made me excited was that I thought he was going to run third party. I really genuinely did. Once he challenged Trump to a debate, since Hillary was avoiding the final debate in California.
The final
I
four
believe
debates,
the
yeah.
final four debates. Yeah, I forgot about that. Fucking coward.
Yeah.
But that was just that was a real moment there. Yeah, I remember thinking though, like, okay, he just challenged Trump and she's dodging his debates. I hope, like, I was like, he's gonna go third party. And then when Trump declined it, I'm like, there goes that hope. But I don't know. This last election, I didn't think Bernie was gonna go third party at all. I thought he was either gonna win or go home. And when he dropped out, I didn't actually get like super bummed like last time. Like this time, I just accepted it. I had to rationalize it to myself in the shittiest, libbiest way I could. I'm like, okay, he's just trying to save lives. He doesn't want people to go vote and stand in lines. And my state was the last state to vote. I'm the only person in the city of Milwaukee to have my name on the Bernie board in the official Bernie headquarters. The only person in the city of Milwaukee. But I was gonna go right after Iowa and all that stuff. I was gonna start going door to door. Then the pandemic kicked off, and Wisconsin held votes regardless. They had only 2 voting locations in person, I believe, and for a city of like 400,000 or 500,000 people, it's not fucking feasible. And the mail-in drop boxes were reduced. And this is a Democrat governor, Democrat attorney general. But we have Republican like assembly for our state, whatever. But like they just made shit worse. Like they went along with the shittiness. They wouldn't postpone. Oh, I remember the governor tried to postpone our election, our primary, and I think either the Supreme Court of the United States or the Supreme Court of Wisconsin shot it down, and they just didn't take it any further. They're like, oh, fuck it, it's in like 2 days anyway. We're gonna have all these people go vote and die. Vote or die? No, vote and die. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I unfortunately found out Byrne was dropping out 5 days before he announced it due to a family member of his. I will not say who, but I did unfortunately find out on the phone that it was going to happen, and I was supposed to lead a phone banking that very night, and I called hysterically and said I won't be able to phone bank. And she said, why? And I said, Byrne's gonna drop out. I feel it in my gut. Like, I didn't want to say I knew, but I was just like, I feel in my gut he's gonna drop. And she's like, well, just phone bank, and maybe he won't. And I'm like, you really expect me to sit there and try to encourage people to like vote for him when I don't believe in my heart that he's going to keep going? But it was absolutely because of COVID. That is absolutely 1 billion% why he dropped out. And it's, Biden, he asked Biden numerous times, please sign this legislation I wrote stating that we will postpone all of the other elections until they're set up for mail-in ballots exclusively. And Biden refused. He
Yeah.
absolutely refused. And Bernie was like, if you go out and vote, don't go out to vote for me. He was telling people, don't go out. That's what a humanist does. So because Joe Biden is a piece of shit in 1,000,010 other ways, Byrne dropped out because he didn't want more people to die. It's
Yeah.
that simple.
I know
And
it was like a very swift realization, but like I described it as a shit lib realization because I felt like I was making excuses for him, but like over time, I was like, okay, like but I still am mad that he didn't get like any, uh, what's the word, like olive branches for lack of a better term,
oh
like,
yeah, he should have got
promises.
more demands.
Yes.
Absolutely. He should have said, look, if you want me to drop, I don't care what the reason is, you better do this, that, and the other thing, or you won't get my endorsement.
Yeah.
He fucked up. I mean, there is no question he fucked up. He could have used that. At the same time, Biden doesn't stick to anything he says, but still, it would have felt better as supporters had
The
he
task
said,
force was such a dumb idea.
yeah, yeah.
Like, what did everybody on the left knew that that was just a nonsensical front.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and there's so much wrong with Joe Biden that, like, he's really just the tip of the iceberg, literally. Like, he is the tip of the iceberg, but he's been part of the iceberg for a long fucking time as it's built up. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's insane. It drives me crazy that, you know, we wake up every day and we're wondering what the fuck. The liberals were all like, yeah, a reasonable, like, for lack of a better term, they would say, like, functioning adult, right? That's what they would say.
Yeah.
Biden is literally like giving. I don't know if you saw the Jimmy Dore episode where he was like on CNN or something, and he was talking about the vaccines and like why they're temporary approved, and like then he goes into some like a bunch of other things, and at the end of it he makes no fucking sense at all. So the liberals failed at even the one task they set out to go for of any functioning adult. And
Yep.
and meanwhile, he's fucking over everybody while blaming two specific Democrats that are really just the front for the whole party and him.
Yeah.
It seriously enrages me. And that's why I'm genuinely hopeful that we can arrange more massive, 56 city marches, not just for, one issue and then another issue and another issue. I genuinely think, you know, well, to me, it doesn't matter if we're doing one at a time, I guess, but we have to bring all of these problems to their faces. And I really, really wish that we could pass a law so that way the representatives had to work from their home state for at least like a week out of every month. So that way we can go to their fucking offices and, not some January 6th shit, but more like some 2011 Wisconsin Democrat shit, like where they fucking camped in the Capitol for 3 weeks because Scott Walker was, trying to take away their labor union rights, and the collective bargaining fucked over all the teachers. And I'm not gonna lie to you, as much as I don't fucking feel bad for corrections officers, I talked with many of them, and they're all conservative, and they're like, "Fuck Scott Walker, he literally cut all my benefits." Like, I I was in prison on the night my governor was elected at 3 in the morning with inmates and corrections officers watching the TV as they announced that he was winning, and the hope I saw in people's eyes just to be fucking fed this bullshit now about like expedited uh like forgiveness or whatever, pardon.
Pardon.
And it's nothing. It's literally done nothing. I saw so much hope in people's eyes, including mine, because I want to be in politics one day. I genuinely do. I want to be, first, I want to do paralegal, then I want to look into law school, then I want to look into politics. I'm not trying to make a career out of it, but it's the only thing that I can think of, other than the activism that I'm already involved with, to actually be about the fucking action. I said that to you in a message. I said, you're about the action. So I'm really, that's why I respect you a ton. And I'm very grateful that you gave me the time of day to be on here, despite the messiness of it all.
Oh, it's all good. I do actually have to get going to get ready for my show, but thank you so much for having me on. And it's very, very kind that you wanted me to be your first guest. That's very sweet, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And good luck with your show tonight. I'll be sure to check it out, and I'll let you know when I have all of this uploaded right, okay?
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.